What's up guys, the Strong Boys 19 here. This is going to be the next review for a new 2022 album. And this is going to be entirely opposite and very different to what I would usually do for the channel, for those of you that do know me very well. But I'm going to be reviewing the latest release from FKA Twigs, entitled Caprisongs. Caprisongs is the debut mixtape from UK-based singer-songwriter, producer, avant-pop, electronic, experimental, prolific artist, FKA Twigs. This release follows two critically acclaimed albums of LP1, which was incredibly electronic-driven, with high processed vocals, very trip-hop experimental beats, and with the critically acclaimed second album of Magdalene, which proves some of the more emotionally driven, heartfelt, and incredibly unique records in her entire catalogue. So with the anticipation for this mixtape, this does have some of the optimism for me, as I was really diving into her music very comfortably, because I was pretty much in awe with how adventurous, unique, and absolutely creative Talia really is as an artist. And with the instrumentation on this mixtape incorporates more in the different influences of genres from trap to drum and bass to hip-hop and R&B, but with the complexity onto the records like on Magdalene, which was infused with genres on the poppiness, the art pop fruition, and as well as more complexity involving the avant-garde. This mixtape is on a different move, and it's really worth it of her big compromise. This is a mixtape that has been so prolific in a separate identity involving these different genres, and this is entirely consistent on various special guests along the 48 minutes in its entire runtime. A lot of the instrumentals on this track list of an album really is like a delivery into something very similar, but still adding in various dynamics and numerous ranges, putting in some more melody into the voices, and even onto some more sounds on a bit of auto-tune here and there, to some processed vocals, visual effects, and a lot more of the separate ability than what LP1 and Magdalene really did deliver as separate albums. The tracks onto the album that I really did like onto Honda featuring Liu on this track. I find the instrumentation package of this music is very, very good, and I find that the rhythm is pretty much one of the other unique beats, and I find Honda vocally for Talia to be very, very consistent, and even the Pa feature later on in the track has a separate flavour that I really like. So I think that these two separate sounds really do match in and blend into this big vibe of emotion, and Honda was personally one of the other unique examples on this mixtape, and as well as the major big single that was out prior to the release of this mixtape of Tears in the Club featuring The Weeknd. Not gonna lie, as much as I am one of those people that was pretty much against the big predictability into the auto-tune and typical uses of modern pop, Tears in the Club, however, is extremely catchy. It's so memorable, and I really like the very big, higher melodic approaches vocally from Twigs, and even on The Weeknd's performance really did sound excellent. It has such a bouncy, uplifting move of a beat, and this type of instrumentation does flow, and also onto some of the other highlights on this mixtape, being on Careless featuring Daniel Caesar, which personally for me is one of the amazing examples on hearing some heartfelt performances, and Careless's instrumentation is absolutely glorious. It's a wonderful portrayal. It has so much soul into the sheer takes of being grabbed with the listener. Daniel's performance, especially on those harmonies, were tremendous, absolutely beautiful, with the high registers that FKA Twigs' voice did register and connect in such a huge, massive way. Personally, one of the strongest performances across the entire mixtape. And also on the other track featuring Oh My Love, being one of the other tracks that was all credited to her. And Oh My Love, instrumentally, is incredibly nice. It's so soothing, and it was just resonating. There's a lot of performance onto some of the mixtape that you can still hear her natural voice, sweet, calm, and especially onto one of the other guest appearances of performances from Georgia Smith and Unknown T on Darjeeling. I think this is another excellent, excellent track, that it does incorporate a unique rapping vocal performance from one of the guests, and I find Darjeeling to really have a huge compelling move onto the sound of the music that is pretty much like on a bit of a complexity type of value. There are some various instrumental passages that I thought were just so out there, and even onto the dialogue pieces of this mixtape that were at points like very confrontational, how much these people do admire the artistry of Talia, and even some motivational messages that I do like the idea about. And it does make me think on a bit of like a Kendrick Lamar type of similarity, you know, like on albums like Damn and To Pimp a Butterfly. Unfortunately, there are some weaknesses onto some of the whole thing in the first place, because as I was diving in the whole thing, there are repetitiveness of instrumentals that they just really come off as very similar and very lackluster in a hook and a memorable sense, especially like onto tracks like Pappy Bones with Shy Girl. This is a piece of music that really does not have any sense on delivery, that has a big dynamic performance, and as well as instrumentation that was fulfilling in a very decent way, but nothing really that special. And even onto the single of Jealousy featuring Rayma, which I find this structure to be not really all that big. While the chorus is the only good thing about it, but instrumentally it's just a big repetitive flair that it never really builds up to anything all that huge, nothing really so progressive. And even onto the interludes, which kind of lacks things even further, that they just come off as, at points, filler-driven. And with the entire consistency of this mixtape, the biggest gripe that I have with this is that while I really do absorb very heavily on LP1 and Magdalene, those records are so much more confrontational and big, moving, addictive pieces of instrumentals and vocal performances, and this mixtape does not deliver in this type of formula the exact same way as I wanted this mixtape to be. And that is the most disappointing part about this whole release. But yet alone, if this is what Talia really wants to make and move forward into the mainstream, then that is no disrespect or problems whatsoever. I'm really happy that she wants to make a big move on something different and diverse like this. They're moving into something very similar to what she had done previously. But other than that, the production on most of the tracks sounded excellent. The balance onto the reverbs, the processed beats were very, very good. Tons of collaborations and various people along the way of making this mixtape be a really good form of sound. But overall, I think that Caprisongs, while there were other weaknesses involving some weak songs and some of the flaws I did address, Caprisongs is a mixtape that I do dig quite a bit, but really disappointed that it's just not as a fulfilling move for me that I would have been attaching with a lot bigger than what I did on the previous two studio albums. I'm very curious to know what you personally think about this mixtape in the comments down below, and I'm going to give this mixtape, Caprisongs by FKA Twigs, I would say a 7 out of 10. That's personally all I would like to address of FKA Twigs' latest release of Caprisongs. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll keep you guys posted for more videos in the near future.